You're going to see your parents 15 more times before they die. This was the blunt reality said to him by a friend that caused Sahil Bloom to change the direction of his entire life, and inspired him to write the topic of today's video, his book, The 5 Types of Wealth. Hi there and welcome. My name is Derek, I'm a certified financial planner, and as a CFP, I believe that everyone should know most of what I know. On this channel, I share the best of what I know and learn, with an emphasis on investing, financial planning, and what really matters when it comes down to our long-term success as investors. Today, we are not only discussing one of my favorite books so far of 2025, but maybe one of my favorite books ever, The 5 Types of Wealth by Sahil Bloom. This video is the first of our book club series where we explore some of my favorite books, summarizing the main ideas, highlighting the key points, and touching on why it's relevant for long-term investors. If you love to read and learn, make sure you follow along so you don't miss a video. After attending Stanford University on a baseball scholarship, Sahil transitioned into the world of finance, after a family friend told him that he'd be able to make more money than he'd know what to do with. It wasn't long before his hard work paid off. Before he was 30, he had achieved every measure of success. He was making millions of dollars per year, he had the fancy title, the California house, the car, and everything that came with them. He had the opportunity to do anything and everything that he wanted to do. From the outside, it looked like he had everything anyone could want, that he was living the dream life. But beneath the surface, he was miserable. He kept on telling himself that he was one bonus, one promotion, or one thing away from happiness. Then one day he realized that he had achieved it all and still wasn't happy. He was living the arrival fallacy firsthand, the false assumption that reaching a goal will create durable feelings of satisfaction and contentment. In reality, as soon as we reach a goal that isn't aligned with our core values, our focus pivots to the next thing because it didn't make us happy. The problem was that his decisions to this point were based on an assumption that money directly leads to happiness, an assumption that he realized was all wrong during lunch with an old friend. His friend's father had gotten sick the year before, and this completely changed his perspective on what's important. Instead of boasting about how busy and successful they each were, the conversation took a vulnerable turn, with Sahil saying that being so far away from his parents back on the East Coast was beginning to wear on him. How often do you see your parents? Maybe once a year right now? How old are they? Mid-60s. Okay, so you're going to see your parents 15 more times before they die. It wasn't meant to be a stab at him or a judge of character, it was just the math of the average life expectancy. It was at that moment that he realized that he was playing the wrong game, that he had prioritized one thing, which was making money, at the expense of everything else. This led him to rethink his definition of wealth, and to the realization that in order to properly measure our wealth, we need to use the right scorecard. Instead of solely thinking about wealth as our finances, Sahil expanded his scorecard to reflect the 5 types of wealth that he discovered, which are time wealth, social wealth, mental wealth, physical wealth, and financial wealth. Instead of wealth being a final destination, it became a continuous journey, one where happiness and fulfillment was embedded every step of the way. The 5 types of wealth became a new way to measure his life, because when we measure the right thing, we manage the right thing. We often think about wealth as just financial wealth, but true wealth is so much more than that, a fact that becomes clearer as you read this book, or hopefully as you watch this video. I think this idea is best summarized by my favorite quote from the book. Your wealthy life may be enabled by money, but in the end, it will be defined by everything else. When we understand this simple but powerful quote, it has the power to completely change our perspective of what's important to pursue. Throughout the book, each of the 5 types of wealth begin with a big question. They each contain a couple of chapters of stories that highlight its importance, 3 pillars that act as its foundation, a wealth quiz score, where we're able to measure where we are, and each ends with a number of proven systems that we can implement to improve our wealth. This book isn't just educational or filled with fluff, it acts as an actionable guide with everything you need to better understand wealth. The first of the 5 types of wealth is time wealth, and the chapter begins with a big question. How many moments do you have remaining with your loved ones? This question no doubt sparks some emotion. It's heavy, but it's to highlight the fact that time is our most precious asset, and it's backed with some powerful realities. Here are 4 charts from the American Time Use Survey, which highlight how people spend their time over their lives. As you can see, the reality is pretty striking. Time spent with your parents and siblings peaks in childhood and declines sharply after you reach age 20, once you're in school or have started working full-time. Time spent with your friends peaks when you are 18, and then declines sharply to a low baseline, until a small, and I mean really small uptick during retirement. Time with your children peaks in the early years of their lives and declines sharply thereafter. The devastating reality here is that there's a very short window where you are your child's entire world. Don't blink and miss it. Time with coworkers is steady during the traditional prime working years, from age 20 to age 60, and then declines sharply thereafter. Time with coworkers actually makes up the largest portion of how we spend our time with others until we retire, making where you work and who you work with a vital consideration. There's only 2 charts where our time increases throughout our lives. Time spent with our partner consistently trends upwards, making this an incredibly important decision. And perhaps the most unsettling out of them all, time alone steadily and at times quickly increases throughout our lives. These charts can be incredibly eye-opening and make the time that we have feel more important, especially when we consider where we are along these charts, or how we can expect to spend our time moving forward. We can take 6 key lessons away from these charts. Family is finite, cherish it. Children time is precious, be present. Friend time is limited, prioritize the real friends. Partner time is meaningful, never settle. Coworker time is significant, find energy. And alone time is abundant, love yourself. When we acknowledge these charts, the answer to our big question, how many moments do you have remaining with your loved ones, becomes pretty clear. It's probably not as many as we'd like to believe, and absolutely not as many as we'd like to have, given the choice. All of the moments, people, and experiences we take for granted today will eventually be the ones we wish we had more of. It's not only important to understand, at least statistically, how we're likely to spend our time, it's also important to understand how much time we can expect to have in the future. This is a memento mori calendar. Each circle represents 1 week, each row represents 1 year, and each block represents a decade. This calendar represents a total of 80 years, which is more or less the average life expectancy. Memento mori is Latin for remember that you must die. It's a very effective way to examine your time and a reminder that time only moves forward, and we only get so much of it. For example, if you're 30, your calendar would look like this, with the filled in circles representing time that has already passed. Or if you're 50, it would look like this. Seeing a visual of how much time has passed, or how much time is left, can give us a nudge of urgency with how we spend our time. In human history, we've never had more time or more control of our time, and yet we have less time than ever for what truly matters to us. When you only chase financial wealth, if you're constantly anything other than busy, you're a failure. But this busyness creates our lack of control over our time. And this is a big issue because time poverty has been linked to misery. People who are time poor are less happy, less productive, and more stressed. They also exercise less, eat unhealthier, and have a higher chance of cardiovascular disease. Being busy could actually be unhealthy. Sahil refers to our lives having seasons, meaning there will be times in our lives when certain things should take priority. For example, when you have children, your time with them should matter most, because you know how quickly that time disappears as they grow up. Or maybe your work has a peak busy season, where spending more time working is unavoidable and necessary. Seasons allow us to shift our top priorities around, while understanding that they will shift back and forth. The foundation for the solution to our modern time struggle is to identify the moments of greatest time leverage, and focus our attention on them. Instead of simply letting time pass us by, We want to be intentional about how we spend our time. We don't want to be distracted by low-value activities. We want to be fully present during high-value experiences. Time wealth stands upon the three pillars of awareness, an understanding of the finite, impermanent nature of time, attention, the ability to direct our attention and focus on the things that matter and ignore the rest, and control, the freedom to own our time and choose exactly how to spend it. Warren Buffett is one of the richest people on the planet. He has a net worth of over $130 billion, and he's 94 years old. If given the chance, would you switch places with him? For you to live out the rest of his life, and him to live out the rest of yours? Chances are, you probably wouldn't. But if you ask him, he might be willing to trade every cent he has to go from being 94 to having decades and decades of life expectancy. For both you and him, you value time more than money, even if you don't realize it yet. In his On the Shortness of Life, Seneca wrote, "We are not given a short life, but we make it short. And we are not ill-supplied, but wasteful of it. We know how important our time is, yet we engage in wasteful activities, while ignoring the things that really matter. We want to be aware of how we spend our time, and we need to give our attention to the things that actually matter. Only by doing that can we gain control over our time and spend our lives in a more purposeful way, whatever that looks like. The freedom to choose how we spend our time, where we spend it, and whom we spend it with, is the ultimate goal. To get a better idea of what matters most to us, we can define our life's razor, which is a single statement that will define your presence in the current season of life. It should have three characteristics. It should be within our direct control, have positive ripple effects across our life, and be identity defining. For example, Sahil defines his life's razor as, "I will coach my son's sports teams." Whenever he's at a crossroads or needs to make a decision, he thinks, what would the type of person who coaches his son's sports teams do? It keeps him accountable to the type of person he wants to be and reinforces actions that prove what his top priorities are, his family. In order to get a better idea of where you are today, score the following statements on a scale of 0 to 4, with 0 being strongly disagree and 4 being strongly agree. Make sure to write down or keep track of your response. I have a deep awareness to the finite, impermanent nature of my time and its importance as my most precious asset. I have a clear understanding of the 2 to 3 most important priorities in my personal and professional lives. I am able to consistently direct attention and focus on the important priorities that I have identified. I rarely feel too busy or scattered to spend time on the most important priorities. I am in control of my calendar and priorities. Feel free to pause the video in order to give yourself some time to think and assign a score for each question. Add your total up out of 20 and keep it off to the side for now. We'll need it later near the end of this video. The second of the 5 types of wealth is social wealth, and we're asked, who will be sitting in the front row at your funeral? Often near the end of someone's life, the thing that they most regret is not spending more time with loved ones, with not deepening their relationships with people they care about. This is because what sets the human species apart is our desire and need for social connection. It's always been the driving force behind human lives. Human connection is what provides the lasting texture and meaning in life. Without people to share our accomplishments with, they feel bland and meaningless. Surrounding ourselves with inspiring people makes our journey more beautiful and the destinations more brilliant. And this is more than just human behavior, it's actually life-changing. Research has shown that the key to healthy aging is relationships. A study showed that those who are happiest with their relationships at age 50 were most likely to be happy at age 80. On the flip side, loneliness was found to be worse for someone's health than regular alcohol or tobacco use. Relationships aren't just something that we desire, it's critical to our long-term health, happiness, and fulfillment. It's what really allows us to thrive. We often sacrifice our relationships and put our social interactions on the back burner, both of which increase our loneliness, in order to be more productive at work. But we have to recognize that to our employer, that no matter who you are, we're replaceable in a matter of days. And that 20 years from now, the only people who will remember that you worked late are your kids. We have to find balance, because we might say we'll make up the time, but as we've seen from the time survey data, it's highly unlikely that we'll be able to. We might say we'll make up the time with our kids in our 50s or 60s, but by that time, they'll have their own lives, own kids, and own priorities. We might feel urgency to prioritize our time with them, but it's unlikely they'll feel the same way at the same time. If we choose to ignore the importance of social wealth, we do so at the risk of our own long-term happiness and fulfillment. Always remember, the days are long, but the years are short. By closing your eyes, imagining your own funeral, and picturing who will be sitting in the front row, we can identify the people who mean the most to us. And we can ask ourselves, what are we doing to cherish them? How are we letting them know what they mean to us? And are we prioritizing our time with them or letting it slip by? We need to find our own front row people, cherish them, and be one to someone else. Social wealth is built on 3 pillars: depth, a connection to a small circle of people with deep, meaningful bonds; breadth, connections to a larger circle of people for support and belonging beyond the self, either through individual relationships or through community, religious, spiritual, or cultural infrastructure; and earned status, the lasting respect, admiration, and trust of your peers that you receive on the basis of earned, not acquired, status symbols. Depth is built through 3 primary actions, behaviors, and attitudes: honesty, sharing your inner truth and weakness, and listening to theirs; support, sitting in the darkness during their struggle; and shared experience, encountering positive and negative experiences together. Social wealth is all about identifying who matters most to us and showing them how much they mean to us through our actions. But we have to understand that our investment in our relationship will have different weight at different points in our lives. If we revisit these 6 charts, that idea becomes quite clear. If we don't spend time with our family, children, or friends in their peak years, we may find that those relationships have moved to the point of no return. If we skip past opportunities when they present themselves, we might not get the second chance we thought we would. Instead of waiting, daily, deliberate actions to improve our social wealth is the clearest path to a life of rich connections. Just like with everything else, anything above 0 compounds. Where we find those connections, either through family or friends, matters less than ensuring that we do find them. Social wealth doesn't just make the journey more fun by being surrounded by loved ones, it makes every aspect of our lives better. There are 2 types of status: bought and earned. Bought status is the improved social positioning garnered through acquired status symbols. It's the club membership, the new watch, or the experience done more for the social media photo than utility. Earned status, however, is the real respect, admiration, and trust received through hard-won treasures. It's the freedom to choose how you spend your time, healthy loving relationships, purpose-filled work, and sought-after wisdom. It's what comes from hard work. Bought status is fleeting, whereas earned status is lasting. To live a life abundant of social wealth, focus on what must be earned, not what can be bought. For your social wealth score, rate yourself 0 to 4 for the following statements. I have a core set of deep, loving, supportive relationships. I am consistently able to be the partner, parent, family member, and friend that I'd want to have. I have a network of loose relationships I can learn from and build on. I have a deep feeling of connection to a community, local, regional, national, spiritual, and so on, or to something bigger than myself. I do not attempt to achieve status, respect, or admiration through material purchases. Just like the last one, add up your score out of 20 and just keep it off to the side for now. Later on, we'll complete a wealth score visual to figure out exactly where we are and what we can improve. Our third of the 5 types of wealth, mental wealth, begins with the question, what would your 10-year-old self say to you today? As it turns out, curiosity is very good for you. It's the real fountain of youth, and it keeps us happier, healthier, and more fulfilled. Mental wealth is about building on the foundation of curiosity that encourages you to search, explore, question, and learn. The problem is that studies have shown that intellectual curiosity and our degree of openness to new experiences decline with age, beginning as soon as adolescence. But a life without curiosity is empty and without wonder. So what would your 10-year-old, hyper-curious, mischievous self say to you today? They would remind you to stay interested in the world and have some fun along the way. The quest for a life full of purpose, growth, and reflection has always been a core part of the human experience. Today, there may not be anyone who does this better than the centenarians of Okinawa, Japan. Ikigai translates to reason for life, and it's a driver of their daily vigor. It has traditionally been made up of 4 ideas: what you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. But people often associate their purpose too strongly to their profession. So Bloom offers an alternative Venn diagram made up of 3 ideas: what you love, what you're good at, and what the world needs. This is because while your purpose can involve your professional career and economic considerations, it doesn't need to be defined by them. To expand on this idea, I kinda hate that the norm in our society for when you meet someone new is to immediately ask them what they do for a living. It would be a lot more fun to ask them what they are excited about, what they do for fun, or what a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity looks like to them. Things that actually matter and actually can tell you something about someone. Ultimately, this is what it means to build a life of mental wealth. To live according to your own purpose, to believe in your own ability to grow, change, learn, and develop, and to find your own definition of peace, calm, and solitude in a fast-moving world. A life of mental wealth is a life of victory in the fight against equilibrium. It is a life that pays the price for its distinctiveness from its surroundings and reaps the immense rewards held therein. Essentially, your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Only you can be the hero of your own story. Mental wealth is built on the 3 pillars of purpose, the clarity of defining your unique vision and focus that creates meaning and aligns short and long-term decision making, the unwillingness to live someone else's life, growth, the hunger to progress and change, driving by an understanding of the dynamic potential of your intelligence, ability, and character, and space, the creation of stillness and solitude to think, reset, wrestle with questions, and recharge, the ability and willingness to listen to your inner voice. Blue zones are areas around the world with a higher than normal population of centenarians, or people aged 100 and older. Studying these areas revealed a common habit amongst the world's longest living people. They all find their life's purpose. Living a purpose-filled life means regularly connecting to something bigger than yourself. And this is a key to living a longer, happier, and more fulfilled life. Of those who Bloom surveyed as part of his research, less than 20% said their primary employment was their sense of purpose. Your purpose doesn't have to be related to your career. It doesn't have to be grand or important to anyone else. It simply has to be yours. To get a clear picture of your current mental wealth, score the following statements with a score of 0 to 4, with 0 being strongly disagree, 2 being neutral, and 4 being strongly agree. I regularly embrace a childlike curiosity. I have a clear purpose that provides daily meaning and aligns short and long-term decision making. I pursue growth and consistently chase my full potential. I have a fundamental belief that I am able to continuously change, develop, and adapt. I have regular rituals that allow me to create, space to think, reset, wrestle with questions, and recharge. By the way, if you're looking to expand your personal finance knowledge, you need to check out my course, Everything Everyone Should Know. It contains 56 videos with over 7 hours of content and covers the fundamentals of everything everyone should know about investing and financial planning. And it's all on YouTube. The best part is it's completely free. I'll link to the full playlist down below in the description. Now, let's get back to the video. The fourth of the 5 types of wealth is physical wealth. And we're asked, will you be dancing at your 80th birthday party? Our physical health really has only been a problem for a blink of an eye in human history. For tens of thousands of years, it was ingrained in our lifestyle. We were hunting and gathering, consistently on the move, which required our bodies to be moving and active and healthy. By the way, I mean our ancestors, not literally we as in you and I. It was only around 12,000 years ago, at the time of the agricultural revolution, when the daily physical demands of the human body really changed for the first time. Our physical wealth relies on our ability to take action and take control. Every day, we have numerous choices between improving or worsening our physical wealth. It can be things like what we eat, whether or not we exercise, and if we are getting the rest we need. But no matter how big or small, everything compounds, either positively or negatively. And if we neglect small things for a very long time, we'll eventually be face to face with a giant problem. And really, if we're not healthy enough to enjoy the things that we really want to do, then what are we doing? It's all for nothing. When we envision our 80th birthday party, surrounded by our loved ones, whether we dance or not is not so much a question of if we like dancing, but more so if we're able to dance. This exercise should spark some powerful questions. If you continue your current daily actions, will you be dancing or sitting? What actions do you need to add or adjust in the present to more closely align your future with your ideal version of it? What would your 80-year-old self want you to do today? This brings us to the reality that your present self is a primary stakeholder in your world, but your future self is the direct heir of the long-term compounding of your actions in the present. With a body, just like a home, if you take care of it today, it will take care of you for years to come. So with that in mind, your mindset should be to treat your body like a house you have to live in for another 70 years. Luckily, building our physical wealth isn't complicated. It just requires our attention and commitment. Our physical wealth is built on 3 very controllable pillars: movement, daily body movement through a combination of cardiovascular exercise and resistance training, activities to promote stability and flexibility, nutrition, consumption of primarily whole, unprocessed foods to meet major nutrient needs, supplementing as necessary to meet any micronutrient needs, and recovery, high quality, consistent sleep performance, and other recovery-promoting activities. Exercise not only delays death, but it also prevents cognitive and physical decline better than any other intervention. Research has found that exercise can reduce all-cause mortality by up to 35%, and those who exercised at moderate intensity activity levels for 150 to 300 minutes per week reduced their risk of early death by 21%. When we add eating right, we're giving our body the movement it needs and the nutrients it needs to energize our lives. And by sleeping well, we allow our body to recover, recharge, and get us ready for what's next. It's easy to overlook the importance of sleep and have the "I'll sleep when I'm dead" mentality, but sleep is essential for everything that we do. And having that mentality might ironically lead to death a lot sooner. Bloom lays out 3 levels within each pillar as a way to work towards improving our physical wealth. I won't read them all out, but if you like, feel free to pause so you can read them for yourself. The idea is to give ourselves realistic and achievable actions instead of getting discouraged when we set the bar too high and don't get immediate results. Again, give yourself a self-assessed score from 0 to 4 for the following 5 statements. I feel strong, healthy, and vital for my age. I move my body regularly through a structured routine and have an active lifestyle. I eat primarily whole, unprocessed foods. I sleep 7 or more hours per night on a regular basis and feel rested and recovered. I have a clear plan in place to allow me to physically thrive into my later years. Just like the other types of wealth, where you are today matters less than where you want to be, and your plan to get there. And lastly, the 5th of the 5 types of wealth is financial wealth, which begins with the question, what is your definition of enough? Throughout our lives, we often put ourselves in the position of chasing another thing, a new place, the higher salary, the job title, or whatever else it might be. Over and over, our current definition of more becomes our future definition of not enough. The thing we once longed for becomes a thing we can't wait to upgrade. We get a new phone, we want the newer phone. We get a nice car, we want a nicer car. We reach what it was that we were chasing, don't experience the life-changing happiness we hoped we would, and quickly focus our attention on something else, believing that new thing will solve all of our problems. Spoiler alert, it won't. The truth is, you'll never have true financial wealth if you allow your expectations or your definition of enough to grow faster than your assets. Our society celebrates the chase for more and views enough with laziness or a lack of ambition. But the worthiness of our lives can't be measured by the numbers in our bank account. You set the terms based on your own pursuit and by the game that you decide to play. What we want to do is imagine what defines our enough life. Where do you live? What do you have? What are you and your loved ones doing? What are you focusing on? And how much financial cushion do you have? We want to build our financial wealth to the point where it can provide us with our enough life. And once it does, we can shift more of our focus to the other types of wealth, to the things that matter so much more than just money. If you convince yourself that happiness awaits you at the next financial milestone, you'll never find it. That's because if you're not enough without it, you'll never be enough with it. Financial wealth is built upon 3 pillars. Income generation, create stable, growing income through primary employment, secondary employment, and passive streams. Expense management, manage expenses so that they are reliably below your income level and grow at a slower rate. And long-term investment, invest the difference between your income and expenses in long-term, efficient, low-cost assets that compound effectively. The difference between your income and your expenses is the most important tool in your financial independence toolkit. That difference is the amount of money you can put to work, and it's the foundation on which financial wealth is built. Establishing a gap and building this gap should be your primary focus when it comes to financial wealth. We never want to allow our expectations to grow faster than our income. That's when we fall into the trap of lifestyle creep or trying to keep up with the Joneses, a never-ending cycle of spending and accumulating debt. Instead of accumulating debt, we want to accumulate compounding assets. We want to put our money in a position where it can work for us and where it's reasonable to expect it to grow over a long period of time. The trick, being able to leave it alone for as long as possible. The longer we can leave it alone, the longer our money can compound, the better and better our results become. These are the 5 clear and distinct levels to the financial wealth journey. I won't read them all out, so please pause the video to read them if you'd like. Remember that money solves money problems. It doesn't solve everything else. It's entirely up to you to determine how you leverage your financial wealth to create and increase your other types of wealth: time, social, physical, and mental. This is our final set of 5 questions to round out our wealth score quiz. So you know the drill by now. Score each of these statements for yourself from 0 to 4. I have a clear definition of what it means to have enough financially. I have income that is steadily growing alongside my skills and expertise. I manage my monthly expenses so that they are reliably below my income. I have a clear process for investing excess monthly income for long-term compounding. I use my financial wealth as a tool to build other types of wealth. Now it's time to add up your wealth score. Take your totals from each of the 5 types of wealth and shade in a pie chart like this one. Having a visual of where you stand in each one is a great way to help point out where you're strong and where you could use some improvement. For example, maybe someone's wealth score looks like this: strong in social wealth, good in mental and time wealth, but not as strong as they'd like to be in physical and financial wealth. It would suggest that they are okay continuing to do what they are doing in social wealth. They could use a little improvement in both mental and time wealth, but they really need a major improvement in both physical and financial wealth. The idea here is to make yourself aware of your wealth score and look for ways to improve it. It's easy to look back and beat ourselves up for what we should have done differently in the past, but that doesn't do any good. Instead, we should acknowledge where we are and look for ways to improve things moving forward. By working on the right things, we can increase our measure of wealth across each of the 5 types of wealth, creating for ourselves and those around us the wealthiest version of our lives. By setting goals of what we want to achieve and setting anti-goals, things that we want to avoid, we can start to build an accountability system for ourselves that we can measure our progress and work towards. There's 46 proven systems for building the different types of wealth offered throughout the book, so it's a perfect place to start. If you liked any of the information in this video, there's a ton more in the book, so I can't recommend it enough. I want to end this summary with one last quote from the final chapter of the book. I am living my dream life because I embraced a better way. I measured the right things, I took the right actions, and I created the right outcomes. I embraced the concepts in the 5 types of wealth. I'm sure I gave up money by leaving the track I was on, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm the wealthiest man on the face of the earth. This book is important because wealth is so much more than just our finances. And how we define the important things in our lives shapes the direction that our life ultimately takes. It's not a coincidence that time is the first type of wealth mentioned, and it's the longest section of the book, while financial wealth is last and not far from being the shortest. If we're using the wrong metrics to measure our life, we're likely going to live a life below our potential, while the happiness we seek constantly avoids us. This is because we're likely going to be prioritizing things that don't matter, while ignoring everything that does. By better understanding the bigger picture and defining what actually matters to us, we can live more purposeful lives, filled with happiness the entire way. We won't be chasing our best life, we'll be living it the entire time. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then I know you'll love the book. Like I said, it has instantly become one of my all-time favorites, and I can't recommend it enough. If you have a moment, please comment below which of the 5 types of wealth resonated with you most, and why. Or, based on your wealth score, which of the 5 types of wealth you're looking to improve in 2025. For me, the type of wealth that stood out the most was time wealth, because as someone who has prioritized work above all else in the past, I can definitely see the ripple effects. And given the chance, there's things I would change, which for me is an indicator of how I should do things moving forward. As far as what I'm looking to improve in 2025, it has to be a combination of time wealth and social wealth. Spending my time more intentionally while prioritizing the relationships and connections I have around me, because in the end, those are what will matter most. I'd really appreciate it if you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who you want to see live their wealthiest life. Until next time, keep doing things your future self will thank you for.